It's a good drink. I'll vouch for that. Welcome back.
So it does sound like the first one would be better than the second and the third one, though.
First two were good. After that, you switch.
Yeah.
After that, you skip the nuts.
Yeah.
And the rim and everything else.
Hey, Bob, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good.
Let me call to order the May 16th workshop session of the Highlands Town Boards. The first item would be to review and approve the agenda. I noticed the way it is listed that we have the discussion on the committees first, and then we have our folks that are online here to do the presentation on short-term rentals. Would anyone have an objection if we reverse that order and let the people on the video link go first?
Go.
Okay. With that adjustment, do I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and indicate by saying aye. Thank you. The next item would be the approval of the April 18th worksheet session meeting minutes. Have any changes or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. So our first item would be GovOS software presentation. Michael Mathis, would you come and do the introduction?
Thank you, Mayor. So as I'm sure you're all aware, we're currently contracted with the Granicus to monitor short-term rentals here for us at the town, and went and tried to get that 24/7 hotline about a year ago and kind of been having some trouble with that. So the guys from GovOS had reached out to us. I sat in a presentation with them, I don't know, a few months ago probably, and kind of liked what they had to share with us, but I figured it would be best for them to present that same presentation here in front of the board, see if you are okay with us moving forward with them and terminating our contract with Granicus. But at any rate, on here is Matt and Noah. And guys, I'll let y'all go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Hey, everybody. My name's Noah Wilson, here with GovOS. I've got my colleague, Matt Eckstein. He's our solution consultant here at GovOS. So he's going to be demoing the software for you all. I've just got a couple of slides just to kind of tell you a little bit about GovOS. Can I actually, let's see, can I share my screen by chance? Let's see.
Jimmy? We're working on it.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll need to share as well, just to throw that out there.
While we're waiting, Matt, have I met you at a League of Municipalities meeting before? Have you been at the vendors session there?
It must be a different Matt. I don't think I joined that particular meeting.
The other one nearly as good looking though.
Yeah, it's possible. You know, we join plenty of conferences and meetings throughout the country, and especially in the Southeast. So it's very possible that someone on our team had joined that. So
Okay.
All right. So let me go ahead, share my screen. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All righty. So just to kind of jump right in, here's our agenda, we'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Kind of already went through introductions here. I'm not going to make everybody introduce themselves or ask them to. I know time is sensitive, so we've kind of introduced ourselves. Again, I'm Noah. I cover the Southeast for GovOS. Recently moved from Knoxville, Tennessee, back home to Dallas, Texas, but spent a lot of time in North Carolina, South Carolina, going to beaches and things like that. So pretty familiar with the area. We've got a lot of expertise in the Southeast and in the Carolinas, with a number of clients from Hilton Head to Sunset Beach, Bald Head Island, things like that. A lot of clients in North Georgia, so I know that that's pretty close to you as well. We recently brought on Rabun County, which on the way to meet with them, I think I actually passed through Highlands, not realizing that I would be passing through on my way there from Knoxville. So, but we'll go through our background, maybe do a little bit of recap, current landscape in the short-term rental market across the states, and then a GovOS solution demo where I'll pass it over to Matt and let him show that to you all. Does that sound good? Good. Awesome. All right. So here at GovOS, we simply want to provide solutions that make your jobs easier and processes more efficient while driving greater compliance. We also want to help you build stronger relationships with the property owners and constituents within your city or town by making their experience with their local government easier. Some of the things that make us unique, we're dedicated to providing support for not only you, which would be Michael and his team, but your property owners and managers. So if they have any issues or they need any support in providing any information to Michael for whatever data that they need to provide or information they need to provide to operate legally and safely within the town, we can help them with that, opposed to just putting it solely on your team. We also want to support the residents who may live near some of these short-term rentals. That's obviously where that 24/7 complaint hotline would come into play. We want to allow them to feel like their voices are heard, and obviously that's a clear stated need here. So we provide a single source of record by enabling the entire process from identification, compliance, registration, which all that process can be in one place instead of having to have multiple systems of record. You can do it all right here. Your staff doesn't need anything additional. So our solution was actually created by a city finance director back in 2011, who is dealing with some of the exact same challenges that you all are facing today. She still sits on our executive leadership board in trying to keep those focuses, the main focus in helping cities, towns, and counties similar to yourself. So it's just a little bit about us. I'll pass it off to Matt here, where he can show us the demonstration. If there are any questions as we go through the demo, feel free to ask your questions, chime in. We're all for that. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Noah. And thanks everybody for allowing us to be part of this meeting. We're going to look at some live software today. I guess quick introductions. My name is Matt Eckstein. I'm a solution consultant here at GovOS. Yeah, just love teaming up with Noah and being a part of these discussions with towns like yourself. Actually, any municipality across the country who is trying to figure out these short-term rentals, right? How do we find them? How do we get them into compliance? And luckily enough for you all, we're here to help you with that. So live software, I'm going to show you Hilton Head Island. I know they're a bit bigger than you, but it's active market. And one thing that they do is they really have kind of utilized our best practices in their approach to managing this market. And one thing that, we talked specifically with Michael about is turning up that complaint system, right? Having an online system and a 24/7 bilingual hotline for folks to call in and voice their concerns, right, about short-term rentals in the marketplace. So at a really high level, and I don't know how familiar you all are with the short-term rental and what our technology does, but we go out to the marketplace, the Airbnbs, the VRBOs of the world, and we go ahead and we do what's called a scrape, right? We pull that data into the GovOS system, okay? What you're able to do is see little dots on a map, right? These actually represent properties, okay? Our main focus is to identify each listing to a parcel within the town's jurisdiction. When I do click on listings here, you'll kind of see an explosion of those on screen, okay? And we actually go through each one of these listings with human eyes and verify who the property owner is by getting access to that parcel. And another thing that we do is we take it a step further and we go through a compliance checklist, okay? This compliance checklist is not just done by us, but really a partnership with you all there, right? Michael, as part of that onboarding process, will outline what compliance means to the town of Highlands. And the town of Highlands will be able to have GovOS as a vendor execute that checklist of verifying compliance within that area. Those compliance statuses are best visible through this listing tracker on the left-hand side. So Michael and his team, we'll come back to this from a reporting standpoint, will be able to look into specific non-compliant measures, right? Our goal is to not just give you a list of advertisements and say, here, Highlands, here's a list of advertisements. You can go figure out who the parcel is and determine if they are currently within the confines of that ordinance, right? We actually will go ahead and determine, hey, is their permit not current, right? Is their permit pending? Is their permit required? Are they a long-term rental that's advertising on these short-term rental platforms? Are they a hotel or a motel? We don't just find short-term rentals part of this process. We find other rental type facilities and we categorize those here, not so much that you can focus on them, but more so you could filter them out from the focus here, which is short-term rentals, okay? It's as easy as checking a box here to see who's requiring a permit, clicking search, and that will pull up that shorter list of advertisements who do not currently have a permit associated with that property. Other areas of focus here would be specifically capturing target potential neighborhoods, right? Or some clients have used this drop-down menu field as residential zones or commercial zones where short-term rentals may or may not be allowed. In this case, you could see Hilton Head's using them more as like subdivisions or neighborhoods. And this also allows us to track not just properties, right, that are operating in those areas, but this also ties back to the complaints that we talked about, right? You might want to know from the community, hey, how many complaints are we receiving in Beach Arbor? How many complaints are we receiving in Carolina Isles, right? Our data will help you determine, right, where those complaints are coming in. Maybe you want to drive some more enforcement in that area. I did forget to mention that I love it when it's interactive. So if you all have any questions about what we're looking at here, please feel free to throw a "Hey, Matt" out there, and I'll go ahead and stop and answer any questions that you may have. Communication and correspondence is a lot easier to communicate with these folks. From this listing here, Michael and his team would be able to select one or multiple properties and add a notification, okay? They'll be able to go ahead and choose some type of letter, the correspondence to send out to them, whether it's an issue of them not having a permit, right? They need to apply. Maybe then they need to have an inspection, right, on the property to determine, life safety measures, which is generally done on an annual basis. Any type of notifications can be triggered directly here through the system by checking a box, going into that notification section. Any of template letters would be built into here that can be easily selected and sent off to that property owner. If we have an email address associated with that property owner, communication is streamlined, right, through electronic mail. If not, we will generate those letters directly out of the system, trifold, and send it out the old-fashioned way. One thing we want to point out next is just the data that's going to be available to Michael and his team from a property view. So we'll go over here and click on properties, and we'll have a kind of a different lookup. Remember that these advertisements are they're being duplicated across multiple platforms. So our goal is to find that Airbnb listing, find that VRBO listing, find that flip key listing in the example that I have today, and organize them under that specific parcel or that property so that you can dig into that record and determine if action needs to be taken. I'm going to pick on a property today. It's 20 Willow Oak Road. So the team could come in here and type any address. And we'll go ahead and type in 20 Willow and we'll click search, and it's brought up 2 records. Okay. The record that we're looking at here is this 20 Willow Oak Road up here towards the top, and we can select that particular property and have quick access to any information about that particular property, such as that owner of the business, the parcel. Is this property an active property? Is it closed? Is it a special occasion property? This status that you see here is configurable. So Michael, right, and his team would be able to determine what those statuses are and place them here on that property record. Outstanding balances, past permits, emergency contact information. This is a key piece of information that's part of our best practices whenever we are discussing an online complaint system with short-term rentals. Because as those issues do come in on those complaints, well, we want our team to be able to contact an emergency contact person just in case if there's parking, right? Or trash or noise complaints at those properties. We don't necessarily want to send that officer out there to go ahead and take care of that particular issue. And we all know the police should be out there catching bad guys instead of writing parking tickets in this case. So we do have that emergency contact information that's stored there as well. Also, that mailing address. In this case, some of these properties are not, the owner is not residing there. So by finding that parcel, we're able to determine what that physical address is and also that mailing address. Other information, as I mentioned, we'll store an owner's information there, an email contact. The listings that are all associated with this property are available for Michael to view here. If he wants to dive into the Airbnb listing or the VRBO listing or the flip key listing, he can certainly do that with a click of a button. At this point, we're kind of transferred into that listing view. Similar layout, we have tabs across the top that will give Michael valuable information, such as what site URL that's operating from. Michael can quickly click that link to the listing and be transported out of GovOS and look at that home. Any details of the advertisement is going to be easily accessible to him through the system. We also will store and track listing title, descriptions, bedrooms, how many people it sleeps. All of that detail now becomes reportable through GovOS. The rental activity, as we continuously monitor this listing on the marketplace, we're able to track bookings or block days on that particular advertisement. And if it's something that the town looks at, I'm sure you guys know other towns do a lodging tax or an occupancy tax. You're more looking at confirmed book days here. However, with that does become average rates for nightly rates for that booking, and that can translate into estimated revenue. Okay, you'll be able to get a good picture of what type of revenue is being generated through not just individual properties, but your marketplace as a whole. History of notifications is going to be available in here as well. So past notifications that have been sent to this property. Any notes that have been provided by our property review team will be listed here as well. This is another key feature that sets us apart from your current vendor, in this case Granicus. We have actual human team that can come through and document that certain checklist on this particular property. So in this case, this is James. He's a member of our property review team. He's doing a special project for Hilton Head here. He's checked to make sure that not only do they need a permit, right, but they actually have a business license. He found the property on the 20 Willow Oak Road on Carolina Coast Vacations Property Management Company. And he also checked into the Beaufort County government max site to verify that parcel and any details of that parcel that you might want to track and measure within the system, but such as amount of bedrooms, right? Some folks have an advertised occupancy that may be too great than the amount of bedrooms and what's allowed. For example, if you're have 4 bedrooms house, maybe you're allowed 4 times 2 plus 2, right? So that's 8 plus 2. You're allowed to advertise for 10 occupants. If they are advertising over that 10 occupants, we can drop them into a status of non-compliance, and that's when owner outreach and communication and education can occur seamlessly through the system through that letter functionality. You know, complaints is something we're putting some emphasis on here today. This property is a property. It's no secret. I pick on this property a little bit because there's a lot of complaints, but these things happen in the community. This one up here towards the top has to do with ashes being dumped on from the fire pit onto that property. This complaint system, online system, does allow them to attach photography. That can be easily accessible to Michael and his team. And then he can even diagnose these complaints and then potentially put them into a status of initial violation or second violation. It's possible that a property gets so many violations that they're no longer able to operate for a certain period of time. As we go through, right, this marketplace of short-term rentals, ordinances change, and we can definitely meet you as those changes do need to occur for tracking compliance. Evidence capture is another box that we can check here. In this particular case, we're taking a screenshot of this particular advertisement and all the additional photography that comes with it. That way, when we communicate out to these folks, hey, we can see you're operating a short-term rental and we do need you to get a permit for that. We'll have the date timestamp of when that screenshot was taken and then the link to the property as well. So that really allows us to kind of dig into this particular listing and this property deep, and really shows how Michael can have access to this information with, you know, at his fingertips just by searching within the system. I am going to pop back over here to the dashboard. And I really think I'm just going to show you some high level metrics here and specifically show our complaint dashboard and how you'll be able to get some detailed information from that. Complaints is something that you'll be able to track directly from a dashboard here. You can see that you can drill down and filter by a specific period of time or a start date and an end date. You'll track new complaints over time. There is a distribution and metrics on hotline versus what comes in through the online. Your latest complaints would be visible here. You can see the most recent complaints and which violations were given. No violations. There's also a status here of could not substantiate. Talked about business area and the tracking measures that are allowed there. You can see, hey, there's a lot of complaints that are in the North Forest Beach area, and we might need to drive some enforcement in that area or some education in that area on what it means to be a responsible renter in the community. Complaint tracking is also going to be give you those addresses that could potentially be problem properties, and you'll be able to communicate and educate them as well. Also, reporting party. We do know that we have residents within the community that are not happy with short-term rentals coming in to kind of offset that community feel. We would never want that passionate resident to skew any of the data. So we do have the ability to track those complaints that are coming in and what type they're coming in, just in case we need to reach out to certain folks and help them as needed in their particular areas. Complaints by type and by status will also be available for you to view here within the system. Now, we did talk about you know, this particular process of getting this complaint system up and running. It's something that we do all the time. You can see it's active here in Hilton Head. We'll provide that online complaint form that you can attach to your website. And then we'll also provide that 24/7 hotline that you can also link to your website for folks to call in and submit those complaints at any particular time. High-level metrics here that are going to be available to you. You'll be able to quickly see your compliance percentage. The Hilton Head's operating at 90%. Metrics on average daily rate, total active listings, and even kind of a new properties and listings over time. So you can see what areas or what times of the year you'll have more properties and listings being added to the marketplace. Again, great metrics for you guys to see so you can plan for the future. The next phase of our demonstration today goes into a bit of a permitting process or organization process that can be available for you to track these particular properties and for them to provide documentation to you. In this particular case, Hilton Head does have a business center where folks can apply for a permit, renew a permit, check the permit status, close their permit, update, and make changes to their account. There's also special notices that they can provide out to these particular residents and these business owners within the community. This is Hilton Head's. I'm going to transition over to my demo site where I can show you what a typical registration process is going to look like for one of those business owners within the community. They'll have a task dashboard over here towards the left. What they can do is they can go through an application process that is specifically tailored to the town of Highland. In this case, we'll show a demonstration of an online kind of a help screen here. A welcome message. What are the requirements today? What are future requirements? Is there an application fee? Are there inspections? Are there things that are not allowed in various zones? It's basically an information dump designed by you, created by us for you, and we can go ahead and submit that we've read that. The next is allowing them to fill out information about their property, possibly where they're renting. This form, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, is a text box, drop-down menus, radio button lists, required fields, non-required fields. It's a way for us to collect that information and enter that detail into that system of record. I promise I will not bore you by filling out this entire page, but I do need to go ahead and electronically sign that and title that down here towards the bottom to move on to the next step. Documentation collection is also part of this process. Many times we need to collect a site parking plan, proof of ownership, proof of insurance, an inspection that's been done on the property. We allow the town, right, Michael, to set these tasks and allow the residents to complete these tasks pretty quickly and seamlessly through this process. In this case, we're providing helper text, even examples to what these documents look like so that we can quickly get those folks to complete that task so that the town can have greater compliance. Another example here is a proof of ownership. Collecting license fees is also a portion of this process through the system. In this case, whatever that fee is, whether it's an initial fee or it's some type of renewal that's in place, those fees and those tasks can be presented to that resident, to that business owner here through the portal, and they can go ahead and complete those transactions as needed. Push this through with ACH credit. We'll pay that now. Again, it's a self-service portal. I get an on-screen confirmation message. At this particular time, it's dropped into a queue for Michael and his team to go ahead and review that application and issue that permit as needed. That's the last and final thing we'll take a look at here, folks, today is Michael. It's going to have access to these applications and permits within the system. He can go and execute an approval. There's a lot of bells and whistles here within the back end portion of the system that I know we're not going to have time today, but Michael will have full benefit of through this partnership. Approvals are simple and easy. You'll see this Highlands short-term rental is right up here towards the top. Mike will be able to click on this, see the tasks that they have completed down here. If Michael needs to review any documentation, it's automatically been uploaded to the system. It's all in one place and he can review that documentation without having to pass paper around the office, or, back and forth between him and the applicant or the resident. Once he's done reviewing that application, he can go ahead and approve that. And the business owner at this particular time would be notified that their permit has been completed. They can log into the online portal and print that license of that permit and go about their day. Again, this is branded to the city of GovOS, which you guys all know is a fictitious place. But this would be obviously branded to the town of Highlands and include all of your information. Again, designed by you, created by us, for you. On that topic, I'll go ahead and kind of close off my presentation here. And I do want to open it up to the group there and ask if you have any questions about the software that we've looked at today.
Yes, sir. Man, I've got a couple of questions. How many municipalities across the United States do y'all serve?
Over 800.
Okay. And your resources that you're gathering information from, besides Airbnb, VRBO, or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's several others. I think we scrape up to, I think it's 30 different advertisement sites, but if there are some that are local that you want us to scrape as well, that may be more specific to the town of Highlands, we can also do that. And we can work through that through an implementation process. So
the only thing I'll add on that too is we can provide you guys with a full list of all the sites that we do go ahead and monitor, if that helps.
Okay. We're not allowed to do permitting. And that seems to be a big portion of what you guys do and how we aggregate information. Without permitting, how's that information gathered by you? I mean, you're offering obviously a lot of information on homeowners and contact information and that sort of thing. How are we going to get that?
Yeah, so it sounds like there's and Michael can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like Michael has to do some sort of or the short-term rental owner or manager has to provide some documentation to Michael for him to review. And he's doing that manually currently. Is that correct, Michael?
Not for every property. So if they've got just like the compliance monitoring system for Granicus, if I get on there and can see sufficient data that they've been renting that property for, let's say since 2016, obviously, and they've continued going through, we're not getting any information from them. Obviously, we'll have the information that's on the compliance monitoring the listings, things like that. The only ones that we're actually getting more information for at the moment are ones that have popped up that we have sufficient information on the rental unit records, and they've actually got to provide documents proving that they have rented prior to the adoption date of our.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, and the only other thing I would add, so that was the first time I'd seen the permitting section of this. So whenever they had first sent it, we never went over that. And of course, we don't have permitting here. But the compliance monitoring system seems to operate the same as Granicus, if not better. And the only thing that I would add is having that 24/7 hotline. You did say that it's 24/7 and you have a live person. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and with that, those are recorded calls, so you all can go in and see exactly how those were managed. You can also dictate exactly how our operator is going to field those calls and direct those according to whatever you have set, whether that's, local law enforcement, code enforcement, whatever you want that to look like is completely customizable to you.
I'll add one more thing here. Thank you all for letting me add one more thing here. Even though you may not be engaged in doing a permit, right, to the resident, Michael, you could, right, still use the system, right, to link these properties and advertisements to an account, right, that you are utilizing to say, hey, I've done these things and I want to go do a lookup on that property and see that proof of documentation. Okay. I just want to add that this can also be just an area where you can document and track that.
Yeah, and I would say more or less, we're gonna be using letters because we'll have their mailing addresses, but as Commissioner Dodson had added, there's a lot of them, we won't have the phone numbers, because they don't have to provide a permit with that information. We do have utility records, but I don't know all the legalities of pulling phone numbers and emails off of those.
I guess one question I would have related to that is if it does show up on Airbnb, VRBO, or one of the other 28, there's always a contact person associated with that. So would this actually draw that out and then there would be a contact person? I mean, there's always a host or whatever you want to call it. Would it not draw that information out so we'd actually have a record of who that contact person is or company or whatever? Exactly. But is that pulled off of the advertisements?
This is pulled from the advertisement.
There, okay. So, and every time when you're on one of those sites, there is a contact person. So if there is a complaint, then that company or person or whoever the host, everybody has a different name on their site, then that person could be contacted. Because part of the problem with the complaint system, if it's only one side and the person can't deal with the problem or doesn't know about it, then it just festers and becomes a bigger problem. So if the person like that can actually be contacted, now if they don't do anything, that's another story to be dealt with compliance. But that was my point. I mean, so in reality, the ones that we find that aren't necessarily listed, I mean, you can't go through 260 properties and find each individual person, but this would draw that information, correct?
Absolutely.
And Michael's going to have the ability on his end to add or delete or modify any of your information.
Yeah, that's another thing too. This compliance status, right? And even the statuses on the property, as I mentioned, they're configurable. So Michael gets to determine the naming convention and the use for these various statuses. I have been made aware that it is not easy, right, for a user of Granicus host compliance to quickly make changes to these records within the system. And that is a benefit that Michael will have. More autonomy in the system, more control.
But I mean, the information, let's say he knows a particular homeowner or property owner, is he going to be able to override what may be something on VRBO that just gives a business address or an email contact information? Is he going to be able to put relevant information that he acquires on our end into your system?
Absolutely. He can do that a couple different ways. He can enter that directly on that details page, right? I believe. Let me pull up my 20 Willow Oak Road here, property example. He can enter any of that information here, whether he wants to utilize like a description field. There's other addresses here. I actually think this is a feature that many of our clients like, is the ability to add contacts, right? There might be multiple contacts that need to be added. And then don't forget this note section here where our property review team, in this case, James, has documented on each one of those advertisements. He can add notes here as well. So yes, he'd be able to document anything here in the system that he'd like to.
Is GovOS going to be able to take what we currently have and import it into your system? Or are you is this a fresh startup, so to speak?
I'm glad you asked that because we already have a process in place to take Granicus's host compliance data and import it into our system. So it's something that we've done in the past.
Any other questions?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Matt, could you show them lastly, does the Hilton Head have a map for the community on there that you're able to pull up?
Yeah, they do actually. So the data is really important, right? And what Hilton Head, what we partnered with them on, this is kind of their page, right? I'm a renter, I'm a property owner. There's access to that that hotline here. You can even get, I believe, the short-term rental online submission form is here, right? I went off track there, Michael. Love this partnership that we have with Hilton Head in a sense that this is basically GovOS's data, and this allows the town, right, in this case, Hilton Head, to be very transparent with the community on where some of these are located. Okay. Also, this is tracking. I know you're not doing permits, right, but number of complaints, kind of where they're located at. I really like this: complaints, parking complaints, noise complaints, trash complaints, other. And then you can obviously filter down by neighborhoods, right? It must be right about here. Maybe that's not a good one. This is not GovOS. This is obviously a GIS mapping service, right? That Hilton Head is using. But Michael, is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think, and you've worked with their GIS mapping system to get this data.
Absolutely. Yep. We partnered with their team to create this. It's very comprehensive. Yeah.
We'd have to see everything we could do, but I mean, obviously Carlton is one of the best at what he does with GIS. We have very good maps, so this could be a reality.
And yeah, the data, it's the data that you're looking for, right? To do a map like this. And if you got a staff member that is really savvy with this, that's the data's plug and play, right? And we have obviously a history of having success here.
Very good.
But Matt, what's the proposed timeline for getting us up and running?
Yeah, so typically we're on a 12 to 16 week implementation time. When you have data like you all have with host compliance right now, it can certainly make it shorter.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically it's about a 12 to 16 week implementation. But if you're not doing the tax piece or the registration piece, it could certainly be on the quicker side for sure.
Thank you. It's a good question. Very good question.
Michael, anything else there, sir?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We have about 20 minutes before we end this workshop. I did want to reserve some time for us to have that discussion about future communities. So, what's Josh, Michael, everyone, what's our next step on this?
Matt, Noah, thank you for that presentation.
Yes.
Thank y'all for taking the time to do that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
And if the board's all right with it, we'll go ahead and sign with them. And then at that point, I think they said we could stretch that first payment out until after the budget is approved, next year's budget.
I'm in favor of it, but I also, since since Granicus never got their program up, sorry guys, but when Granicus never got their program up that we already prepaid for, we should get that money back immediately.
We've already talked with Bob. We're gonna be sending them a letter
Okay.
from staff first, try to be cordial. If they deny it
Basically
at that point,
breach of
we'll get
contract.
Bob and them to draft a letter.
But you're gonna use Granicus, are you gonna use Granicus up until this becomes active?
We've kind of talked about that. We could continue using the host compliance, and I would have to talk to Granicus just because the host compliance has worked. I mean, that's been something that's worked. It's not been as detailed as what they're saying their software can do, but it has worked. So that's something we would have to see if we could get a partial year or something with Granicus. I don't know, or we'd be in the dark there for a minute.
Just to chime in here before we hop off, there have been other clients in the past that have been able to be granted a month-to-month contract with Granicus, and especially because of the leverage that you all have based on their lack of delivery on that hotline portion, I would have a hard time believing that they wouldn't bridge the gap between the end of your contract with them and the start of your contract with us, if that's the route that you choose to do. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again
Have a
for
nice
having us.
evening.
Have a good night.
Okay. We'll move forward then with implementation. Okay, thank you. All right, our next item, community group formation. And Commissioner Steeler, you have the floor.
Okay, so last week or last month, we talked a little bit about the business group, and then there was some talk about forming a community group as well. So this is something that I spent some time on thinking about, and so I just want to throw out some ideas to you all and just get some feedback on. So looking at how the business group was sort of reinvented, I want to say is we're relying on the chamber, I guess, to help with that. But I think with the community group, first off, we want to define the goal, and the goal is the flow of information from the board to the members on the community committee and back and forth. So I think, and what I'm stressing there is, I don't feel that the community group should turn into a lobbying group. And I think that's something we need to be careful of with the Chamber of Commerce too. I don't think us, Jeff and I, on that committee, working with the chamber, the point is the flow of communication, I think, and of information. And I think that, again, I don't think the point of this group or that group should be to come back to the town board and pound through the agenda of the chamber or the agenda of, say, for instance, the neighborhood coalition. So when I looked at this and just came up with some ideas, I would say that to be on the committee, I think you should be a resident of Highlands, whether that's full-time, part-time, seasonal, but somebody that operates a short-term rental, for instance, would not be eligible to be on the neighborhood coalition, or if you're using your home as a short-term rental. Let's see here, I'm just kind of reading through some notes here. Again, I think it's critical that we hear, it gives the residents a voice. I think one thing that could be interesting and unique about it is to identify, and I've thought of some names, but identifying individuals from each kind of neighborhood in Highlands as a way to select people that would serve on this committee. I'll say that since I'm serving on the business group to start, I think that it would be better off if somebody else would lead this group. But I think this is something that ultimately what I would like to see is that we kind of rotate through. So it's not Jeff and I always on the business, and it's not, say, whatever, Amy and Buzz on the neighborhood group. We would constantly rotate through that. So you're getting, everybody's kind of getting a chance to hear from the different groups. So kind of throwing that out there. I just kind of want to hear some feedback as to what y'all think and direction to go. I also said, the other things I thought of is the meetings would be quarterly. I think it's important to have an agenda. I don't think either group, whether it's the business group or the community group, I don't think it can just be a complaint session where you sit there and listen to everything the town's doing wrong or vice versa. So I think it's something that having an agenda going into this, I think is very important. And,
My biggest question related to it is when it came to the business group, it was, we'll let the chamber set it up and we'll be liaisons to it. So what I'm questioning and I'm open to ideas or thoughts is who does this group? I mean, what entity, what group does that? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I think in that vein, I think it actually ought to be a group of concerned citizens that get together, and whoever it is,
Right.
the board is the liaison to that group. I
Right.
don't think it ought to be necessarily the town that sets up this group
Agree.
and encourages
Yeah.
Agree.
folks to
And-
come forward.
And one thing, the only thing, and of course, if somebody else sets it up, then it's up to them. But I do like the idea, if you really want to truly represent the community, it should be a blend of seasonal,
yeah.
full-time, and representative of the various communities. I mean, I live on Holt Knob. The others, Mirror Lake, we got Sagey area out Bowery Road area, you got Bearpen, you got others. So that's my whole point. I mean, it's something like I guess we're gonna come up with, it makes sense to me to have zones when it comes to this program as well, come up with neighborhoods, whatever we decide that ends up being correct and correctly appropriated. But I do think representative of the broad spectrum. So I think that's.
But I don't see why it couldn't be a town thing, though. I mean, I don't know what would hurt if you just said, if you somehow advertise, this is what we're doing, we can either select people, or you get people, if there's an interest in this, they can come forward and participate. I mean,
I don't disagree with that, except for the fact that we weren't willing to do that for the business owners.
Right. Well,
So-
maybe an initial meeting, if the town scheduled anybody that's interested, come this one time. Whoever is the representative from the board would be there, and then they would pick their own
yeah.
membership, so to speak. I mean, we could set the time and provide the place.
But if you do that, I mean, you might as well just make it with this meeting then, do what we did with the business group, but then it's just one-way communication.
Yeah.
I thought and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong here, part of the problem is if it becomes a town done deal and we're not liaisons, we're actually creating this, it's a committee and have an open meeting.
But if it's quarterly and you say that it's the second Tuesday of the first, fourth, whatever it might be, I'm just using it as an example. Then it's advertised, you advertise it. I don't
It's a
think that's a
known
big,
thing.
I mean, there's 21 committees at the county level. And they advertise my meeting every other month for rec commission. So, and there's other committees they just constantly goes out. Here's the advertisement for the meeting, not a big deal. So I don't consider that a bad thing. That is the case for sure. But like I said, I mean, I'm a business owner, but I'm also a resident. So, I mean, we're all residents, obviously.
I think that then you have the potential of, and I'm just trying to work through this here, of it becoming a public meeting
I agree.
as opposed to a liaison to a group who wants to tell us something.
Right, but I'm willing, like, I like his idea too, that if we're the two on business committee this year, then maybe we flip
Right,
next year,
right,
we
I
do whatever,
agree, I
rotate
agree.
around, but
Yeah.
the only thing is, I think that there needs to be a group of citizens to get together and come up with the game plan of who it is, what it is, and then we can have people appointed to it from this board.
I get
But-
that, but again, I think if you go at it you're gonna end up with a lobbying group, and it's just gonna be, I think it's just gonna be we're gonna be talking about the same thing over and over and over again.
I don't understand how you're not gonna get a lobbying
Yeah.
group. They're coming to you with their ideas, their,
Well, not when it's a leader,
Concerns.
not when it's a so-called leader from different areas of the community. I mean,
Well, but they have a commonality, whether they're businesses or they're residents, that's their common starting place.
Well, the chamber, I mean, if the chamber is the commonality of the business, then there's your lobbying group.
Right, it's automatically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That was my point. It already, on the business side, it already is a lobbying group. So like we already hear from the chamber. Like the chamber itself, I mean, Kay comes to the meetings and it fills us in on what's going on. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is, so like, what are we trying to do with the neighborhood group? Do we want to hear from the neighborhood coalition every quarterly? But we're already hearing from them because they're here tonight. So I mean, I'm just saying, how do we get a group of people together that's representative of the community, but isn't focused on one sole thing? You know, there's different things that could come out of this, like ideas that we've never even thought of.
Well, that's true, but they're gonna have their perspective. Okay, the businesses have their perspective and the neighborhood people have their perspectives about what Highlands should and should not be. And that's what the information, the going back and forth, I don't see how you get it to not be a lobbying group, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a lobbying group in the sense that, I don't know, you're paying me a whole bunch of money to vote your way kind of
Yeah.
lobbying.
No, yeah, not like
You
that.
know,
Yeah, no, and I agree with you completely, and I completely agree with the business committee as well. Yes.
it should be a lobbying.
but
group.
one
We
thing
should
that was
hear
done
their
during the-
perspective.
From the business committee, though, it was important, like, we're not gonna have 7 restaurant owners on that committee at one time. There's one restaurant owner, one hotelier, one retail, one service industry, trying to get construction and real estate,
The
a
broad,
broad spectrum. So we're trying, and which is kind of like the neighborhoods, you know what I'm saying, in the business
But
community.
the neighborhoods, not every resident of Highlands has the same view of what Highlands should be. I mean,
which is
that's-
fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why we
Right.
want to get them together.
Right. No, I think we're actually talking about the same thing. I just think, I like the idea of being people from various communities
And
within the
maybe
town.
that's what it ought to be.
That's-
Maybe
that's-
one representative from Shelby Place. and
Yeah.
one-
Yeah.
One representative from Bowery and one
From-
representative
From
from Mirror
Holt Knob,
Lake, or
from
whatever.
Mirror Lake, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm talking about. And that's kind of the same thing as the concept of business committee, where you have somebody from every kind of, I'll call it industry or business group. Like I said, we don't want 6 or 7 people in the committee that all own hotels. I mean, all the information is gonna be
Very narrow.
narrow focused. So that's my only comment about it. I'm in favor of it. I think it'd be great to have. I don't know who actually sets it up. I wish, if there's a group of concerned citizens get together from diverse backgrounds and say, this is what it is, and here's how we're gonna map it out. Then just like we did with the business committee.
That would be well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
And
think
I'm not
it's something we
opposed
need
to a
keep
work session
studying,
related
and I don't
to
know
it,
if we're gonna
really.
have this answered tonight. I
No.
just feel like it's
No,
something.
but
We
I
only
think
have about
Yeah.
30 more minutes.
So,
But I think this is a good place to start.
but having
Also
the
is
conversation, maybe somebody will step up and say, hey, I wanna, I'm
I'll
interested
organize
in.
this part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. To be continued.
Yes.
All right. We are at the end of the hour. Appreciate
No time for killing.
this workshop. Do I have a motion that we adjourn and then reconvene for the business?
So
meeting?
moved.
Motion.
All in favor?
All right,
Adjourn. Thank you.
Time to stand up.
Yeah.